Should you upgrade the pickups in your bass or guitar? Well, the first question you got to ask yourself is, do I like the way my bass sounds or my guitar sounds? If the answer to that is yes, then no, you absolutely should not change your pickups. It's going to completely change the way your bass sounds. So I kind of had the idea when I did this, and a lot of other people seem to have this misconception that it's going to just take the sound that you have and somehow enhance it. And that is not the case. It's starting over from scratch. What your bass sounds like now will have absolutely nothing in common with what it's going to sound like after you change your pickups. In my case, that was kind of depressing because my bass, while it had cheap Indonesian pickups in it, it had this very cool twang that is very, very P bass characteristic. It's very similar to the sound of Green Day's When I Come Around. And I loved that about it. But the problem was the pickups were there was some sort of short somewhere. One minute they were super hot, the next minute they were super quiet, so hot that they would cut out and so no sound for a moment there, and make a crackle when they did it, which is really odd because they're passive, right? It's not like there's a battery and juice running through these things. So somewhere between the wiring harness and the pickups, there was a problem, so I replaced them both. I got a new wiring harness off eBay. I got new pickups off eBay. These are the Seymour Duncan SB3 quarter-pound pickups. And when I ordered the pickups, they came with a set of strings, which was a nice bonus. And they were the strings that I personally prefer, the Ernie Ball Super Slinkies that I immediately replaced everything out with. So for me, it was total score to find these. Well, I said I was a little disappointed that I lost the characteristic twang that came with my pickups and lost that voice. The sound quality that I'm getting out of these is just phenomenal. I mean, they're sound studio quality. They are just beautiful. I mean, I own some very, very expensive basses. This little cheap Squire, sound wise, now competes with those. Maybe not feel wise, but sound wise, competes with those. Um, so, a lot wider range of tones. The tone that come out is just beautiful studio quality, but doesn't sound like Green Day When I Come Around anymore either. So something to keep in mind. This may or may not be the project for you. Another thing to keep in mind is you're gonna have to solder all this stuff into place. They just come with basically two little wires hanging off each of these, and you're gonna, or I don't remember. I think it's just a ground wire and a hot wire. I don't remember how it was wired. I forget. Sorry. It's been a year since I've done this. Um, but you're gonna have to solder the wires to your wiring harness and make everything um, to make everything work. So that means you're gonna need a soldering iron. You're gonna need some solder, and you're gonna need some soldering skills. And if you've never done it before, this will be an interesting learning project. If you haven't soldered ever, or if you haven't soldered in a while, like myself, I hadn't soldered anything since high school. So this was a bit of an experience for me. That said, got everything, after a couple tries and cleaning off solder that I didn't want where I didn't want it. I got this all set up, wired correctly, tested, working perfectly, and it just sounds gorgeous now. So where did I get these? Well, you can get these at any music store. Mine again are the SB3 quarter pound Seymour Duncan pickups. They make other models for P basses. If you happen to have a P bass, they make models for all different kinds of basses and guitars. Other brands out there make them. I'm not saying that you should run out and buy the SB3s over other brands. I'm not really endorsing or not endorsing them other than to say that they work for me great and sound gorgeous. There may be something out there that might have had that twang that I want, and I just didn't know how to figure that out. Where I bought this is from JRR Shop. If you Google that, you type in eBay and JRR Shop, the site will probably come up. I bought them from this gentleman on eBay. I always like to credit and plug the sellers where I buy things if they provide good service and if the product is exactly as described. I mean, if I don't have to contact them and ask any questions, to me that's a plus, right? He did his job. I ordered it. A couple of days later, it showed up in the mail. Everything was exactly as described. Everything worked. And in my case, he was having a deal. He threw in a set of strings, the Ernie Ball Super Slinkies, which I absolutely love. So for me, total score. Um, Everything went great, and everything is now installed great and sounds beautiful. So should you do it? It really depends on your circumstances. Um, Unless you don't like the way your bass sounds, you pick it up and you just go, these are just so cheap, they're so crappy. The Squire feels all right, it plays great, but just the pickups just stink. Um, if that's not your opinion of playing your bass, I don't know that you should do this. If you're building a bass from scratch, well, of course you should do it. You're not upgrading. You need something new. In which case, the Seymour Duncan ones, they worked good for me. They might work great for you. So in any case, that's my take on it. Please like, share, subscribe. All three help us considerably.